You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit-ready and build a strong security foundation, quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
You got to keep your tools in your toolkit sharp. I feel like I'm always reading. I'm always, going to webinars, listening to podcasts. I go to conferences. You have mentors. You join networking groups. It's really about having a growth mindset to always be experimenting and learning and growing, making mistakes and learning from those and moving forward.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning, this is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good evening, good day. I don't know what time you're listening and or where you're listening from, but I am glad that you are listening. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another victory. Speaking of victory walks, if you are not hiding under a rock, you will see that there's a lot of stuff happening in the news. Noteworthy things, and there's some things that may be a bit depressing to some. In the world of marketing, I'm finding that the to be found local businesses and you can, if you apply certain strategies and do certain things on a continued and consistent basis, you can go known to building an audience really, really fast. And why is that important? Why is having an audience important before actually even thinking about the sale? So there's two different components that come into marketing. One is branding. So branding helps you to gain an authority. Marketing helps you to probably sell a product. The posting, the social media, that part is the branding. That's what you're known for. And if you do that well, branding yourself well, then people will come to you and find out what you're selling. And if you package your stuff right. But you don't want to come across, and this is what I watch all the time, and I'm watching people make the mistake. You don't want to come across like you're marketing when you should be trying to set yourself up as an authority. You don't want to come across pitchy. always selling something. Every time I listen to you, it's wham, wham, buy my course, wham, wham. I teach yoga, wham. We know what you do, and how we know, because you're doing a good job of letting us know what you do. And if you do it consistently, what tends to happen? Somebody inboxes you, somebody sends you an email, someone hears you on a show, they continue to look you up, and they see that you're consistent. What happens is, because we get so caught up in vanity metrics, we don't really understand how we want to position ourselves in the market space. We lose sight of what it is that we really want to accomplish, or we never really sit down and think about what it is that we want to accomplish. So we just doing it, and I'm gonna say, pissing in the wind, you're gonna get wet. You know what I mean? And sometimes you may have a hit, and then the other times you don't understand why you don't have a hit. But there's a science behind both, and the reason why people are not really understanding the nuances, the science behind it, is because they don't have the proper people list that they listen to. Now, I will say this: there's a lot of information that you can get for free on YouTube, and a lot of information that you can get for free on clicks, but there is not enough information that you can start to really build up and out. And if you're not willing to invest in proper coaching, or reading books, and you can read the books, and they're going to give you a lot of theory, but you actually need someone, or listening to conversations like we're about to have today, that can really hold your hand through the process. I used to coach in marketing. I stopped doing it because I didn't find any value in it, and I'll tell you why. Because if I'm charging someone to help them to strategize their thing, and that was my mindset. So I was doing it wrong. I was charging by the hour, and then there's an exchange, and you give them some stuff to do, and you got to walk them through it and all that stuff. So by the time I'm finished with the client for an hour and a half, and going around like the simple stuff, and we try to move forward to something more complex that's going to help them move forward and build, because I'd rather coach someone and give them the tools than actually do the things. I used to do the things also. But then when you're doing something for someone else, the reality is you can't do it for yourself unless you have team workers and stuff. And I didn't have that. I was a solopreneur trying to do this thing, pay my rent, my mortgage, bills, got a lot of stuff that was happening in my life. And I got away from it. Not because I wasn't successful at it, because that wasn't really necessarily what I should have been doing at the time. So understanding where you should be at the present time, understanding pricing and all of those things, comes after you really have an idea of which direction you should go. Today, as we sit you at the feet of the masters, we introduce you all to Paige. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here
Thank you,
today.
Paige. If you don't mind telling our audience a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, and what you bring to the table.
Sure. So I started a marketing consulting firm. We are a global branding and digital marketing firm 23 years ago. I'm based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but I look at my career in kind of three chapters. I started in marketing in
Mhm.
1990, which feels like 100 years ago, at Procter and Gamble in Cincinnati. P&G is probably the most recognized consumer products company in the world. Every category they compete in, their products are number one. Sometimes they're also number two. If you use Tide or Crest or Pampers or Bounty or Charmin or Pantene, those are all P&G brands. They invented the concept of brand management. So I really started my marketing career at a marketing boot camp from the very bottom up. I did that for about 3.5 years. I also worked at Coca-Cola, which is maybe the most recognized brand in the world. Coke is sold in, I think, 200 countries around the world. So that first chapter of my marketing career was really traditional Fortune 500 consumer products, packaged goods. It was really a great experience because you're working with big brands established, you have really big budgets. P&G and Coke sponsor the Olympics. They sponsor major events all over the world. 24/7, 365, they are spending money getting their name out there. But I left that chapter behind when the internet started taking off in the mid to late 90s. And I joined my first .com internet startup, venture backed in Los Angeles. We went public in 1999 and we were sold to Yahoo. And then I did two more startups as the head of marketing for two other brands that also had good exits. So my second chapter of my marketing career was working for very small, scrappy brands, technology brands that nobody had ever heard of before, and getting those brands on the map and then helping them grow to the point where they got sold, they went public, and they're all .com survivors, and they all live to tell the tale. So that's was a very fun chapter as well. The budgets were much smaller. These were brands that when I gave people my business cards, they had no idea where I worked. When you when you work at P&G and Coke, everybody knows you're the 800-pound gorilla. Everyone's, wow, that's impressive. I think my mother thought when I gave up these big corporate jobs for these companies no one had ever heard of, I think she thought I was having a nervous breakdown. But the truth is that I just really fell in love with the whole internet world, how fast things were moving, and the technology was just very exciting. But 23 years ago, I hung out a shingle right after 9/11 to do independent marketing. I set up my own firm. We work with companies from the earliest stage, those VC backed startups, to Fortune 500 and everything in between. The majority of my clients are in that 2 million to 200 million in revenue, mid market, emerging market firms. But we do anything a marketing department, ad agency, or PR agency does on an as needed outsourced basis. So that's what I've been doing for the last 20 plus
Well, it's
years.
amazing, Paige. That's a very fruitful and well versed career path, right? And all centered around marketing. I want to go back to when you first started and how has marketing evolved from, when my first business where we took ads in newspapers, we made sure that we were in the yellow pages. We had these things called phone books that
No, it's amazing. When I started at Procter and Gamble, we did print,
Mhm.
we did television, we did radio, and we did outdoor advertising. Those were like the line items for your business. There was no social
Mhm.
media. That didn't exist. And when I went to the internet startups, things were so different because we did a lot of market research at both P&G and Coke. And when you do research at a big established company, it can take 6, 9, even 12 months. Back then, you'd send out surveys and you do either quantitative or qualitative research, focus groups all over the country with different age people. And literally, you spent a ton of money and you talked to so many people, you were actually able to present the data with statistical significance. It was like figuring out who's going to win the presidential race. You talked to so many people, you felt like you were very certain. But when I worked at these startup companies, we didn't have the time or the budget. Can you imagine working for a tech firm in 1997 and taking 6 or 9 months to do research? The company might not even
Exist. Yeah.
exist if you took that. And so my first startup was in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica, right by the beach. And our target audience was mostly male from like 18 to 24 years old. And we would come up with ideas that we wanted to do to attract more of our target audience. And we'd put together quick and dirty mock ups, and we'd go down to the Strand, which was at the beach, during lunch for 2 or 3 hours. And we did what we called intercept marketing. You just stop people who were on bikes or rollerblades or taking a walk, walking their dog, and say, hey, you look like you might be our audience. Will you talk to us for a few minutes? And we'll give you a t-shirt or a baseball cap or a CD. And sure, these guys, many of them had tattoos and piercings, and they looked exactly like the kids we were talking to on our website. and they'd spend 5-10 minutes with us. We'd give them some swag. We'd go back to the office and tabulate our results. And before we went home that night, we'd put up new things on the website based on what we had heard at lunch. And then the next day, we'd come in and we'd look at the results and we'd say, okay, these two ideas work, nothing else. Let's get rid of those and go back to the beach at lunch today and do some more. And so we were iterating literally on a daily basis, and we were not spending very much money. This was like at most a Zoomerang or a Survey Monkey if we sent out an email, but otherwise it was just us spending our time talking to people, not even close to statistical significance. The world has changed so much in the time since I joined marketing. And then even with my own company 23 years ago, Facebook didn't exist. And when it was launched, it was really a way for high school and college kids for dating. Are you cute? Are you hot or not? That was really what Facebook was. And grown-ups, adults didn't use it. And now you fast forward and you think of all the different tools and technologies, all the social media platforms. And Facebook certainly has a young audience, but not the way it used to. Most of the people on Facebook now were like grandparents sharing photos of their grandchildren. So it did have a business use for a while, but it's a lot less business now. So it's changed a lot, is a long-winded answer to your
No,
question.
I'm glad that you were able to really take us through that ride and that journey, because some people just think that everything is black and white, right? How were you able to sustain through all of those transformations and stay relevant and keep up with the knowledge of the industry, but not just the knowledge of the industry, but then translating the knowledge, because sometimes people gain knowledge and don't really know how to implement and into the work that you were doing.
You got to keep your tools in your toolkit sharp. I feel like I'm always reading. I'm always, you know, going to webinars, listening to podcasts. I go to conferences. You have mentors. You join networking groups. It's really about having a growth
Hmm.
mindset to always be experimenting and learning and growing, making mistakes and learning from those and moving forward. Look at all the artificial intelligence tools that are out there now. I was earlier today for an hour and a half, I was on a webinar for AI, just trying to see what other organizations are doing so that I can get up to speed and let my clients know there might be some new tool or technology that could help them. When I started in marketing, when we did public relations, that was a press release. You'd write the press release and you'd send it over the news wire. And you'd have to pay a lot of money and follow up with all the journalists. Today, everybody's walking around with a computer in their pocket. Those smartphones have more technology in it than most of us ever had. When I started, people didn't have anything close to that level of technological power. And how many platforms are people on today? Everybody's a citizen journalist now. Everybody's got a megaphone on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitch, whatever. Now it's not Twitter, it's not X, it's Blue Sky, I think that everybody's using now. But you have to stay up on all that. So professional development has to be on your radar. You need to really stay up on everything, and you don't need to be an expert on it, but you need to be aware of it. You need to be experimenting and talking to people, and whether it's blogs or online publications, or even if you still get trade journals, magazines, whatever, you've got to keep your antenna up all the time because there is new stuff happening literally every day.
Right now, as we speak, someone is coming up with a new invention on the back of AI that's going to be helpful, that may take away some of the low fruit jobs. Where I'm redoing some of the branding for what the podcast. There was a season where the slogan, "We sit you at the feet of the masters," actually was good. But now I think that we've evolved from that we're changing that. And with changing that, we look. And I was wrestling with the slogan, but I landed on evolving lives through conversation. One of the lessons I had in marketing is trying to find a picture that gives you that gives off what it is that you're trying to say. You really can't use words, but you want the picture to indicate your feeling, and in hopes of that the picture would also give that same indication, that same feeling to the person that sees it. And we know that art is alive, where 5 different people can look at the same painting and walk away with 5 different emotions or opinions. How important is it when you're looking at your artwork and you're looking at your brand design? How much time do you put in finding the right picture to frame uh, the emotion or the feelings that you want to frame?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And the saying, a picture's worth a
Mhm.
thousand words. If you find that right image, it really can tell a story. I always say one of the things that I feel like we do for our clients is help them find the right words and pictures to tell their story in a compelling way. And today, if we learned anything during COVID, it's that your online presence matters now more
Mhm.
than ever. Because when the world shut down after the pandemic and people were not getting together in person, they weren't going into offices, they weren't going to conferences or events. The only way we could check in on each other was online. So you had to have a website, a social media presence so that if somebody wanted to talk to you on Zoom or on the phone and they went to Google and put your name in, what was going to pop up? If nothing popped up, if there was nothing about you, they'd say, why do I need to talk to this person? They don't even exist practically. And then if you put their name in and a lot of weird things come up, then you go, too much digital dirt. I don't know that I want to be associated with that person. And then what if you share the name of a serial killer or a porn star or something? Then it's like, I'm not sure who this person is, but I hope it's not one of these people. It's really important that you control your own narrative
Hmm.
and that you know what your online presence is and that you don't have any digital dirt out there with a name like yours or a name like mine. If they put our names in, it's probably going to be us.
Yeah.
If your name is Bob Smith or Susan Jones, good luck. But you and I, if there's stuff out there, it's probably about you and me. So you need to know what's being said. And as you said, you want to keep your website relevant and current. And you don't want to be a time capsule where it looks dated or old fashioned or not very relevant. Today, like you said, people are talking about technology, AI. Do you have messages on your website? Is your online presence relevant for the conversations that are happening today? If you're a consultant, a coach, if you're in professional services, you have to stay up on the trends and you have to let your audience know, I know what's going on out there, and I would be a good partner for you to help you navigate all the uncertainty because there, as you said, there is so much going on every day, twists and turns. When you turn on the radio, you listen to podcasts or watch the news or whatever, there's just a tsunami of activity. And it's like you need to stand out and break through all the noise and clutter with a brand that people identify with. And brands are really important because if you're not a brand, you're a commodity. And if you're a commodity, you're competing on price. And if you're in that price war, you're never going to build a sustainable business. So building a brand, I think, is more important today than ever before. But a lot of people, when they come to me, they say, Paige, I'm not really a brand. I'm not LeBron James. I'm not Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Serena Williams. Like those people are brands. Mark Cuban's a brand. They're Richard Branson. Those people are famous. I'm nobody. I'm an accountant. I'm an attorney. I'm a business coach. I'm not really a brand. I disagree. I think everybody's a brand today. You're a brand, I'm a brand, and If people are going to come and spend time with you and spend money on you, they need to know that you know what you're doing and that you can help them learn and grow and be successful. Because if your brand doesn't stand for anything that's relevant or tangible, they're not going to trust you. And a brand is really a relationship. It's a promise that you're making that you're going to deliver a consistent experience. And if people believe your brand, if they buy into the brand, then they want to keep talking. They want to have a conversation and see if you can help them. If the product or service that you're selling is something that can help them be more successful. And if they don't understand what you do, you're not talking to them directly, it's going to be a waste of your time and money.
I'm glad that you said that. And I'm going to use a sports analogy for everyone who's listening. There's phrases centered around my teams. And one, currently, the Jets being the Jets. So I'm watching the Jet game of Jets Miami. And I was the one person watching. And the Jets were winning the game. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, everything's going good first three quarters. But now here comes the Jets about to be the Jets. They're on brand, right? They go up by 3 with 45 seconds left. But really, they could have ran the clock down and kicked the game-winning field goal, but the player caught the ball and runs out of bounds. So that automatically stops the clock. And I'm like, all right, Miami has no timeouts, but this is the Jets. I'm gonna invent a new way to lose. Kick the ball, and instead of kicking it through the end zone, having them start at the 30, they kick it a little short. The guy catches it, and he runs to the 50-yard line. And that was on brand, right? Here goes the Jets being the Jets. When we're talking about hear the song, I'm thinking about Saving the Dog. I can't remember that song, but you know, but that wasn't why the song was written, but that's why the song will always be remembered. How do you get people who say, Paige, I'm not a brand, to identify that these things, you can be the Jets being the Jets, or NaRon being NaRon, or Paige being Paige, to your small tribe? You lift yourself up to your customers as the guy. Everyone wants to, if you're listening to me, you're in business or you're consulting, you want to be, I have a guy. I know who I can call. I got a guy for you. You want to be the guy that they call. How do you convince people that this is what they should be striving towards?
Again, when people say, I'm not a brand, I'm not famous, I'm not that important, I think everyone in business today, in particular, needs to start thinking of themselves as a brand, because that's what makes you memorable. That's what makes people think of you when they have a problem that your product or service can help them solve. You want them to think of you first. So you got to think of it as like owning some real estate in your customer's brain, so that what is that real estate that you own? And the challenge is you cannot stand for 10 different things. You can really only stand for one, maybe two things. And what you want to do is figure out what's unique, special, and different about you. What's your unique selling proposition? And then you want to continually reinforce that in everything that you do. Again, it's about finding out what people value, what they're willing to pay for, so that you can be known for that. I think the challenge is people spread themselves too thin and they try to be too many things to too many people. And in marketing, you have features and you have benefits. Features are all the shiny objects. We can do this, we can do that. It comes in all these sizes, it comes in all these colors, and it's like a million different features. The thing is, people don't buy features, they buy benefits. What's in it for me? Are you saving me time? Are you saving me money? Are you making my life more convenient? That's what people want to hear about. What's in it for me? So, it's hard for people to shift their focus sometimes, and they get a little bit overwhelmed because they feel like there's just so many things I have to do. And it's no, you need to pick a few things and do them really well, and then consistently reinforce them in everything that you do. And so the way to find out if you have a solid brand is to do a little market research on your own. And again, it doesn't need to cost a lot of money. You can talk to people that know you personally, know you professionally, and ask them, when you think of me, what are the 2 or 3 words that come to mind? And you want to make sure that it's the same message that people like. When I started my company, all I talked about was marketing. We were a marketing business. But once we got established and clients were using us to help them with their sales, to help them with their business strategy, to help them raise money, those were all extensions of the core brand. We built our credibility, we built our relationship with them as being a really good marketing partner. And once they trusted us with their marketing, we could add value in additional ways. But I think the best brands, they really do start by putting a very solid stake in the ground. Think about Amazon. When they started, they were the world's biggest bookseller. That's all they did was they sold books.
Mhm.
And then they put the bookstores out of business. And then they started selling music. Remember, they were originally doing CDs. And when they started, it's hard to remember now, people didn't have their credit cards stored online. It was like, do I really want to give these guys my credit card so they can send me a book? I don't know. It sounds a little dicey, but you did it and they sent you the book, and then you said, all right, that worked out well, maybe I will buy a CD. And now people buy everything on
Yeah,
Amazon, their groceries.
yeah.
There's nothing you wouldn't trust. Amazon probably has keys to a lot of people's houses at this point, just to deliver the groceries. And you think about it with Oprah, when she started, she was like on the local news, and she was just like a news broadcast person. And then she started her talk show and she got known for that. And then she started her book club. And then she started her network. And now Oprah is so much more than a TV journalist. She's iconic now. But again, she started small, and you start with your core and then you grow from there. With all the social media platforms, I always warn people, do not spread yourself too thin. You can't be
Everywhere.
everywhere. A really good platform to share and to connect with people. I don't need to be on Facebook or X or Pinterest or Instagram for my business. That's not where my clients are looking for me. Be very deliberate and be very consistent, because if you try to be really funny on one and cool on another and buttoned up on another, it's which version of you is going to show up at my meeting? I don't know. You look and you're thinking, I don't like that version of the guy that much. If he's too snarky, that's not going to work for the culture of my organization. You really want people who clean up well, don't have a lot of digital dirt, and show up the way that you want them to show up. Blogging is another thing that can be a can of worms, because a lot of people feel like, oh, I should start a blog. The problem is, if you start a blog, you have to keep feeding the beast. Like, you can't just set it up and then do it 3 times one week and then one time and then skip 2 weeks. And that doesn't work. And it's like a podcast. You got to make a commitment that you're going to really, continue to put up great content week in and week out, because otherwise you're going to basically train your audience to say, this guy's not really consistent, flaky. Sometimes they publish, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they follow up, sometimes they don't. If you don't want the responsibility of keeping a blog going,
Don't
don't start your own blog. You should contribute to the well-trafficked blogs that are already in your category or industry that have an audience, and then you just contribute. And if you can only check in once a week, that's fine. Make a post, make it a really good post, thoughtful, relevant, put your contact info, And then if you do that consistently for a couple of months, before you know it, so if that's the blog that everyone follows in your category, and all of a sudden they go, that NaRon, every time he publishes something, I agree with him. He makes the smartest comments. Who is this guy? And then they click on your signature and then they start following you and then they're checking out your website. And again, I'm not disciplined enough to do what you do with the podcast. I couldn't do it and keep it going. But I love being a guest on other people's podcasts because then I can just show up and do my thing. And then I don't have to worry about all the heavy lifting because you're taking care of it. So know what's authentic to you and stick to your strengths so that you don't dilute your brand.
There you have it, everybody. We sit you at the feet of the masters and give you conversations that will help evolve your life. My last question for you, Paige, what books have impacted you throughout your career life? It could be fiction or nonfiction that you would recommend to the audience.
So I read a lot of books. I love biographies and autobiographies of business people and strong women. I love reading about real people who have done kind of amazing things. But I think from a business book standpoint, a real kind of oldie but goodie is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that advice is like timeless and evergreen, never goes out of style. On the marketing front, there are a lot of really good marketing writers. I think Seth Godin, Guy Kawasaki, David Meerman Scott, Ann Hanley, all of them have written really good books to help you think about being a better communicator, a better writer, a better marketer, a better kind of brand person. I wish I could read faster. Maybe I don't do books on tape. Maybe I should. I listen to a lot of podcasts too. I find inspiration from real people. They talk about all the war wounds and the bumps in the road and the ups and downs, but that's how you learn. That's where I think you learn so much more from the setbacks and what might originally be perceived as a failure. But by getting up and doing it again and learning what went wrong, those are the times where you absolutely positively have the most growth and the most learning.
There you have it, everyone. Listen, we don't ask you for cash apps, Venmos, or any of those things, but we do ask that you hit and subscribe. Your likes, your subscriptions help us to get known. And Paige actually came through from listening to our podcast. So you've been doing that, and our podcast is growing because of you. If you're on a platform where you can leave a review, like Apple or Spotify, we ask that you leave that review. Again, that helps us to grow. Paige's information is right under the description. Under the description, there's a link. The link goes to her website if you need to build. Now, you heard from 2 million to 200. Don't come over there talking about you got $100,000. You're not. We're not talking to you. Maybe she has some information there that you can get you to the 2 million to the 200. But we want to really focus in and on that peer group, because having someone who's been at it will help you not to go through some of the pains that they've experienced. We need a coach. Don't forget, don't walk making excuses. Don't walk being stuck in the Stone Age. But we walk together in victory. And Paige now is a part of the Walk in Victory family. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.